Well, hello and welcome to our reading of Thucydides, Book 4, and we're up to Chapter 5, Hoide Orton, or Ortan. This is now the Spartans, agontes. Now, ago, one of the many meanings is to celebrate. When you see it with Ortan, it means to celebrate. So they chanced celebrating a certain feast, and at the same time perceiving, so when they perceived what was happening, and we get this idiom here, they regarded it with an oligoria, so with indifference, as being a little matter. And at the same time as perceiving it, they regarded it as being of little importance. The hose here is on the grounds that, or something, they thought that whenever they did go out, either sparse is the object of this, so the subject of the accusative participle here, it's a future participle. Notice the accent here, it's menuntes. And the subject of this, of course, is the Athenians. So that when they did go out, either the Athenians would not, wait for them, so would not resist them, probably is good here, would not resist fast them, or they would, this is from future participle from Lambano, they would take them easily by force. Kai tikai, and also in some way, so in some respects, it's almost in addition to this, and also the army, this is the Spartan army, being still in Athens, hup esce, detained or held them back, and the object of that is the autus. So they thought the Athenians weren't going to cause them much grief when they did go out, and also the fact that their main army is still in Athens, that restrained them. That's a nice translation. That restrained them to some extent. Te Kisantes, and the Athenians, having fortified. Now this doesn't take a genitive, so this genitive here is object of this bit here. The area towards the mainland. So that part of so they fortified that part of the land, the one toward the mainland, in the direction of the mainland, facing the mainland, and those parts which it was especially necessary, so understand, to fortify, so those parts which needed it most, in 6 days, they did all this in 6 days, and we get a ton men, and we're going to get a ties down here. So the main verb is here. They left behind Demosthenes with 5 ships. Autu is there. That's that use of autu. So they left Demosthenes there with 5 ships, Fulaka as a guard, and they so then it was the de, and with all the other ships they made haste to Cursara on the journey by sea, ton plune. They made haste on the journey by sea to Cursara and Sicily. So that's the end of part 5, chapter 6, section 6 here. But the Peloponnesians, the Spartans, being in Attica, when hos eputhonto, this now is the aorist of Punthanamai, when they perceived that Pylos had been taken, now this is the perfect participle, feminine, with Pylos, because it's a town, city, or town really, from Lambano, Kata Lambano. So when they perceived that the Punthanamai is taking a genitive here, so when they perceived that Pylos had been taken, they retreated katatakos quickly, in fact as quickly as, katatakos with speed, so quickly, epoiku, back home. Now we get another men here. Men and det, very useful to keep an eye out. They help you to balance the sentences and see how the grammar's working. And the Spartans and Agus their king, considering top peritain poulon, the affair regarding Pylos, as being oikeon sphici. Well, it's something like as being their personal concern. It's almost, it was a bit too close to home because Pylos is part of the Peloponnesos. So as being a domestic matter, you could translate that oikeon for them. And then the det, but at the same time, having invaded Proi early, and now we get a genitive absolute here, with the two situ, chloru, and ontos. So the grain still being green, so they would normally live off the grain of the place of Attica where they're invading, but it wasn't fully grown yet, so they couldn't use it. So the grain still being green, espanidzon, they were in need of food, tois polois, for the many men, and Chymon, a storm, epigenomenos having arisen, a greater storm having arisen. Now this is a difficult little phrase here, so it's beyond the established time, so worse than the usual season, you could translate this as, or unusually severe for this time of year. So Maidzone is greater, but it's worse weather occurred than was usual for that time, and it piese from piesdo, it pressed hard upon the army. Hosti, so that Palakothen, for many reasons, it happened that they anachoresai, they withdrew Thason more quickly. So it happened that they withdrew Thason more quickly, and that the Esbolane, the incursion was Brakutaten, was the briefest. So the briefest incursion, so incursion for the briefest time, and then the Tautane with that one. So that this incursion was most brief, literally. For they remained in Attica for 15 days. And that's the end of chapter 6.